All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jessica. How's y'all's afternoon going? Going pretty good? All right, awesome. So yes, I have 13 years of sobriety. Sobriety date was November 26, 2009. I'm very passionate about working with the adolescent teen youth because when I was young, I started using substances at a very young age. And so this was like my life goal, if anything. I'm going to have my team introduce themselves. They're amazing. This is my Yes team here. And also Valerie, who couldn't be here. We love her and miss her, but just to know that we gave her a shout out. But here she goes. I didn't have a good luck with the clicker last time. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Danny.
Hello, my name is Daniel Melcher. I also am in recovery, been in recovery for 33 years. I got sober when I was 29 years old. I also started very young, old lifestyle. And I was, this is way back, I went into treatment in 89. Back then, treatment was a little bit fronty. So I remember I was talking to one of the counselors in treatment, and I was complaining about another counselor and that he didn't know anything. So he told me in his own words, so why don't you go to school, become a counselor, or I'll shut up. So well, I'm going to do that. So I went to school and became a counselor, and thank God for the guidance. He kind of pushed me. Uh, but I've been working in a lot of modalities in treatment, mental health, criminal justice. I mean, name it, I've done it. Adolescent, inpatient, outpatient, stuff like that. So now I work for the YES program, and I'm still learning. You know, you never stop learning. Okay, I want to introduce Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm in recovery as well. I've been sober since October 5th, 2018, so almost 5 years. I have been in this field as a recovery coach for about 2 years, and I will soon be an LCDC intern. So after this upcoming semester, I'll finally be an intern. Thank you. But this is my first time working with adolescents. I used to work at Camino Real in Jordanton, Texas, so small rural counties. But it's been an honor to work in the school districts. I primarily work in Harlandale ISD, which is the south side of San Antonio. So there you go, south side. So I love it because that's like, I've done a lot of things over there. So to be able to get back to that community is very rewarding. I'll pass it on to Ashanti.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ashanti Blackman. I'm currently a peer coach at Rise Recovery. So I was an intern for 6 months. I'm currently getting my master's in social work. So I have about 10 more months left. But I was an intern with the team, and I really fell in love with it. So my history is kind of in mental health. I worked at like psychiatric hospitals, things like that. But working with the team, I really fell in love with, I guess, helping teens with addiction. So I recently became a full-time employee, so I work with Rise. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Christina.
Hello, everybody. My name is Christy Wagner. I'm a recovery coach at Rise Recovery. I'm also a recovering addict and alcoholic. My sobriety date is May 27, 2018. For that, I'm really grateful. I primarily work with the Edgewood School District, but I also help out with other districts as well. And I'm extremely blessed to be here with y'all today to talk about our program and talk about the YES team. And I guess we'll get started.
All right. What is the YES team? It helps teens and young adults and families to overcome the effects of drugs and alcohol and partners with the community in education and prevention. So one of my philosophies is to engage families, kind of wrap around, because everybody who gets close to anybody who's abusing drugs gets affected. So our program is kind of wrap around with families and look for systems. Anybody who's engaged with a person who's abusing drugs. And then in the schools too, because their education is down. The whole lifestyle kind of gets chaotic real fast. Okay?
Okay, so a little history of Rise Recovery. Rise Recovery originally started in 1971. It was known as the Palmer Drug Abuse Program, otherwise known as PADAP. It was founded in Houston, Texas, but it was brought to San Antonio in 1977. During the initial program, over time, PADAP has been rebranded to Rise Recovery, which happened in 2013. But during the initial program, young adults discovered that through mutual love, acceptance, and support, they could stop using drugs and alcohol, resulting in a steadfast commitment. They also learned that through loving and helping one another, their self-esteem was elevated. Furthermore, they witnessed the strength, unity, and power that comes from the love of the group. These principles of love and understanding remain the foundation of PADAP for over 40 years later.
So I'm just going to go over the objectives today. So today we're going to be recognizing or teaching you guys about recognizing the roles of peer-led alternative groups in addressing substance use, and then also learn the difference between a peer and a clinician. And then we're going to be talking about strategies for supporting individuals who are struggling with substance use and understanding the importance of community for recovery support. We'll also be teaching you guys, like I said, the different peer groups, such as the 12-step programs, mutual aid programs, and how these programs can be a supportive environment for individuals in recovery. And then we'll also be teaching you guys of the importance of collaborative and the holistic approach, and how we work with the community organizations and other stakeholders to provide supportive environments for individuals in recovery. And then lastly, we'll also be teaching you guys how to be able to understand the importance of teaching these participants the importance of sober lifestyle, sober activities.
Okay, so what is the YES program? Rise Recovery's YES, otherwise known as Youth Empowered by Sobriety's program, is a community-based, flexible, and immediate entry program model that receives referrals for care through each independent school district. The program allows anyone who has experienced or is experiencing negative consequences related to drugs and alcohol to gain insight into their use, access a peer network of support, and find resources throughout the community to help aid in their recovery journey. So currently we are working with the Harlandale, the Edgewood, the Southwest, the Northeast, San Antonio, Judson, South San independent school districts, but we're also looking to expand into other area districts as well.
So how it works. So once we receive a referral from either the school social worker or the counselor, and we could also receive referrals straight from the parents or the students themselves, we will then meet with the students one-on-one in their school to do their intake and orientation. And once we complete that, we'll then go into the schools weekly to meet with the students one-on-one for individual sessions to work on building coping skills, harm reduction methods, and relapse prevention. Depending on the campus, sometimes incentives are given to the children if they join our program. For example, like I said, I work at Harlandale. So what happens is if they get in trouble on their home campus for a substance-related infraction, then they'll be sent to Harlandale Alternative Center. In their sentencing, they'll be sentenced to a certain time, right? So let's say 90-60. So 90 is their long time, 60 is their short time if they join our program. And it's not, they think, oh, they're going to join our program and then they're going to get the 60 days. So we explain to them in our expectations, no, you have to successfully complete at least 3 groups. And after those 3 groups, you still have to continue to come to group until your 60 days are up. But that is how you successfully complete our program. And then, of course, the individual sessions. And
So let's go back to
Then-
President Johnson. He implemented the EPSDT
somebody talking. Is that in the other room?
You know what that means? Raise your hand if you know what EPSDT means. That's why we have Texas Health.
Okay, so anyway, so the really cool thing is that students have the opportunity to stay with us after they leave alternative school. So if they want to go back to their home campus and they're like, hey, I really like Rise Recovery, I want to continue getting services with them, we'll follow them to their home campus, and we'll also follow them throughout the summer as well. So they can stay with us however long they want.
I have a quick question. That 60, is that the minimum to finish your 3 steps? You said 60, 90?
So that's just an example of 60-90, right? So they could even get like 90, 180, right? So yeah, so they have their long time and then their short time, right? So like I said, if they join our program, they successfully complete the requirements for our program, then towards the end, we'll put in a recommendation to the school social worker and the principal saying, Billy successfully completed his program. We'll put the list of attendance that he did, and all we can share is our progress, attendance, and participation. And then from there, we'll say we recommend they do go back to their home campus or they don't. Does that answer your question? Okay.
All right. So, as we were mentioning before, one of the services that we provide is groups. We do tons of groups within the different school districts, but these are just some of the topics that we talk about on the groups. So some of the topics can include understanding the risk of substance use. What we do is we provide the information for physical, mental, social consequences of substance use, including short-term, long-term effects on health, relationships, academic performance, and overall well-being. So we just don't teach the students, just say no to drugs, right? We give them a reason why, right? And we are able to share our experience, strength, and hope with them, right? And let them know and educate them on what can possibly happen if they go down that path, right? So some of the students that we work with, they don't, fortunately, not fortunate, well, they're lucky enough not to go down the same path that we did, right? So we can be able to help them so that way they don't go down that same path. We also teach them building resilience and coping skills. We teach them effective coping mechanisms, stress management, as alternatives instead of turning to substances for relief. We also do peer pressure and refusal skills. This one is like my absolute favorite that I do. I like to call it novella star kind of, class, right? And I always tell my kiddos, who are my novella stars out there? And they're like, that's me, miss, right? So they start practicing, right, on how to say no, but they do it in a fun way, right? And so with that, we teach them assertive communication, and that really helps them out. We also teach them decision-making and goal setting. So we help the participants understand the importance of setting personal goals aligned with their values and aspirations. We also talk to them about identifying and managing triggers, because some of them don't even know what triggers are, right? But we teach them, okay, what are your internal triggers? What are your external triggers, and how can you manage them, right? We also talk about healthy communication and relationships. That's another big thing that we talk about. Again, we teach them assertiveness, active listening, and conflict resolution. We also do media literacy and advertising influence. So we explore how the media and advertising portray substance use, highlighting the influence of marketing strategies on perceptions and behaviors. We also tell them about the science of addiction, what happens, right? That's something that I know growing up, I didn't know anything about that, right? I didn't know how it was going to affect me physically, right? I was just taught just to say no, right? But the way my mentality was, well, why? I want to know why. So we tell them that. We also do create a supportive environment for them. As you can see, this is actually Valerie's office. It's so beautiful. But it's just something comfortable for the kids, you know, so that way they can feel comfortable sharing whatever it is. But even in the other school districts, like at Harlandale, you know, they're very open to sharing whatever it is that they're going through because of how supportive we are. And then lastly, long-term planning and life skills, or even short-term planning. So this is, like, we just meet the clients where they're at, right? And I always think, whenever I think of like short-term goals or long-term goals, I think of this kiddo that I had, which is, she's laughing because it's a funny story, I promise. But one of the kiddos that I had, he was really struggling, right, with trying to find a way to make money, but he only knew the easy way, right, which was selling substances, right? So I told him, okay, well, let me meet you, like, where you're at, right? What do you like to sell? Well, I like to sell dope, miss. Okay, no, we're not doing that, right? What else do you like to do? And he's like, well, I mean, a lot of the kids are selling snacks and stuff. So I'm like, okay, cool, right? And then I didn't see him, right? I didn't see him for a couple of months, and I was like, oh my God, I hope he's okay. So then we're doing outreach event with Danny at forgot which campus it was. But he comes up to me and he's like, Miss Jessica, Miss Jessica, Miss Jessica. And I told him, hey, how's it going? He's like, it's going really good. I want to let you know that I'm 8 months sober. And also, instead of selling dope, I'm selling snacks. So, like, you know, again, meeting them where they're at, right? So that was really cool just to know that he felt comfortable to tell me that. All right. Let me pass it on to Christy. Love that story.
All right, so what is a peer? A peer is a person with lived experience of recovery from mental illness or addiction. By combining this experience with skills learned in formal training, peer specialists, for example, certified peer specialists, peer support specialists, and recovery coaches deliver services in behavioral health settings to support long-term recovery. It is also important to say that a peer specialist is not a clinician. So for me, becoming a peer specialist was incredibly rewarding and a big accomplishment. Being able to turn all of my years in active addiction into something where I could use in a positive place, being able to help others, especially the youth, has been an incredibly fulfilling experience. I can't begin to explain how it's changed my life. And then, you know, just having a passion for this work and being able to come to work every day is a gift. And I absolutely love my staff that I work with and my coworkers, and then the youth that we see and their lives turn around, and Rise Recovery as an amazing non-for-profit company. So I just feel truly blessed. So thanks.
All right. A couple of our guiding principles that we have is what a peer specialist representative. They work as a guide by the principle of mutual, miss my Spanglish, mutuality, which is for me safety, defined as a focus on the connection between the peer specialist and the peer within their own give and take. Okay, like I'm a clinician, I'm not a peer specialist. So I sit down with them and I set up the diagnose, I do the assessment, the treatment plan, and all that good stuff. What the peer specialist does is they kind of guide them through the process and help them if they have any questions, you know, because sometimes as a clinician we get too technical and they don't understand a word they said, you know. And I remember being in treatment, and when they were doing the intake, I didn't understand anything they told me. They just told me to sign my name. And so when I walked away, back then they used to call them house parents. And so he came up to me and he asked me, "Hey, did you understand anything?" And I said, "No." So he kind of helped me, to understand what time we go to bed and all this stuff, right? What time we eat, what time is dinner, what is the recovery about? And that helped me a lot because the counselor, he was like way over my head. But it made me feel comfortable that when I was able to meet with him again to kind of complete the paperwork, I was kind of in tune with what he was talking about, right? And so the clinician, again, clinicians are in a role of helping and supporting participants with a focus on diagnosis, identification of strength, and treatment plan. There is not an expectation of give and take, okay? And participants' relationships, right? Because as a clinician, I have to kind of pull back a little bit and help them go through the process of their treatment. And so, because we're going to talk about treatment goals and treatment plans and stuff like that, even though I do establish rapport with them, but it helps to have a peer specialist to kind of guide them along the way. Thank you.
So moving on to the next guiding principle, from the peer specialist perspective, they focus on learning together rather than assessing or prescribing help. And then from the clinical perspective, they focus on assessing and helping. So the overlap for this is a desire to support recovery and the person's achievement of their human potential. So kind of like how Danny was saying, the peer is kind of more like I would say like a big brother, big sister, where the client or the students usually feel more comfortable coming to us and being able to share. I've had a lot of kids tell me like, miss, like I feel more comfortable talking to you because I also look like their age too, so they think I'm a kid, but I'm actually in my 30s, but they think I'm like 19. And so they're like, I feel more comfortable talking to you because, older people don't understand. And I was like, well, I'm older, but it's just kind of like big brother, big sister kind of thing versus, a clinician is kind of more like it says here, they're just kind of assessing the situation and not kind of getting down to their level, so.
Okay, so another guiding principle is that from the peer specialist perspective, there's a big emphasis on sharing and exploring life experiences where both the peer and the client or the student, they share their personal experiences, right? The clinical perspective, there's an emphasis on exploring programs participants' experiences with less expectation for self-disclosure from the clinician. But the overlap is the importance of connection, finding common ground, and respect. So basically, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Me as a peer coach, I'm going to go in there and be like, hey, don't worry, like I've been there too. I know more or less what you're going through, right? And so, because I know when I entered treatment, it took me a couple of times, right? And the first time I left, because I was like, these clinicians, they don't know what they're talking about, right? And I just wasn't ready. The second time, I think I was more ready, but I still didn't feel like somebody who sits behind a desk, and is just, typing what I say, doesn't know exactly what I went through. So it really helped. Back then, they didn't have peer coaches at the treatment center that I went to. They do now, but I see the importance of connecting with somebody. It's like the peer specialist is kind of like the bridge in and the bridge out, making that client or student more comfortable to go in and talk to the clinician, and also getting ready to transition out of treatment or alternative school or wherever they may be.
Okay. So another guiding principle is that there are many ways to understand the experience of what gets diagnosed as mental illness, such as the biopsychosocial, spiritual, cultural, distress as a teacher, altered states, or natural variation of human experience, etc. So the clinical perspective is that the biopsychosocial approach is the main framework for the diagnosis and treatment while utilizing a cultural competency of framework. The overlap of this, though, is that the commitment to support the person in making meaning of their experience. So whereas with the peer specialist perspective, say like maybe one of their clients that they're working with is diagnosed with anxiety or depression, right? And they have the same diagnosis. Then they can share their experience on as to why maybe they feel that they were diagnosed with them, right? But the thing is with the peer specialist, they are able to share that. Whereas with the clinician, it's a little bit more on just focusing on like their biopsychosocial, right? And just focusing on that. I know going in school, like they were telling us, like, you know, you can self-disclose, but to a minimum, right? So that's the really cool thing about our team is that we have the peer specialists and then we also have LCDC. So that way, if there's something that we can't discuss, I can go to Ashley and be like, hey, can you help me out with one of the kids I have, or Christy or Ashanti? So that's why I think my team's awesome.
Okay, the next guiding principle from the peer specialist perspective: do not participate in the delivery of involuntary interventions such as commitment to a hospital or outpatient commitment. The clinical perspective is involuntary interventions such as commitment to a hospital can be justified as clinicians struggle to balance the duty to care and with the dignity of risk. And the overlap is both clinicians and peer specialists recognize the importance of choice and self-determination in the recovery process. Basically, like I mentioned before, the peer specialist is not a clinician, so we just want to make sure as peer specialists that we don't intervene in situations that are out of our scope of practice.
Sorry, it's kind of difficult with one microphone, but thank you. So I think this is the last guiding principles for the peer specialist perspective. We're trained to be advocates for and with the participants. So advocacy may include speaking up about the participants' needs and goals and coaching participants and speaking up for themselves. Advocacy may also include advocating for the participants' legal rights, civil rights, and human rights. From the clinical perspective, many are trained in recovery-oriented practice, which is strength-based, person-centered, and aimed at supporting participants in achieving their unique goals. So that overlap is both clinicians and peer specialists strive to listen carefully to the needs, preferences, goals, and aspirations of participants. So basically, as a peer specialist, whether I'm working with a child or say I'm working with an adult who might be on probation or something or have CPS, and they're like, hey, Ashley, can you come with me to my court hearing? I could say, yeah, I could go. I don't have to be subpoenaed, right? I could go and advocate for them. Hey, they've been doing good, share their attendance, participation, and progress. As a clinician, they're probably got to be subpoenaed, right? And so that's the difference right there. I advocate for my students, like I said, to get out of alternative school in their short time. So.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, so there are some barriers that some of our participants face. There's actually a couple of them, but one of them is for motivations for change, right? So maybe they feel like they don't need treatment, right? But what we can do on our part is we share experience, strength, and hope with them, right? So the majority of the people, though, who do not receive treatment in the recent years didn't do so because they saw no need for it. The majority, to be exact, is over 95% of afflicted individuals. Despite negative changes, the financial, emotional costs, the damage that addiction bears, these people didn't realize that their lives were at stake. They also didn't feel like they were ready to stop using. So that's one of the barriers that we face with our kiddos too, right? Because like they can be like, oh, miss, I don't know how I feel about staying sober the rest of my life. Okay, well, how about 30 days? Let's try 30 days. Let's see where we can go from there, right? And so with that, they don't feel that judgment, right? And so that's very, very important. I know that a lot of the kids that I work with, they talk about being judged at school, even when they come back from alternative, right? They can be like, well, you know, some of the teachers or principals will be like, hey, well, this kid came back from alternative, they're a bad kid. So they're always constantly being judged, even if they're trying their best to stay sober. And that's one of the falls for them, you know. Also, financial difficulties, right? Maybe they don't have health coverage and they can't afford the cost. Well, with Rise Recovery, with our YES program and all our other programs, we're totally free. So you don't need no insurance, no nothing. Everything that we do for them is absolutely free. But in 2013, 316,000 people that were addicted willingly made an effort to get professional treatment, but they didn't receive it. Only 37% of these individuals shied away from it because they didn't have any health insurance to cover the costs, and they couldn't afford treatment on their own. So again, that's a big barrier. And so one of the things that we do as the YES program, we are partnered up with the San Antonio Mobile Mental Wellness Collaborative. It's a very long name, but what that is that we work with different agencies, right? And we're totally free, as well as the other agencies as well. And we all collaborate together, and we help out families, staff, and even the kids, right? So that's also a big plus. Another thing that's a barrier is stigma. So they'll worry that, you know, maybe it'll have a negative effect on them, right? As far as the students go, or maybe even their parent, right? If they're struggling with addiction as well. So that's where we can come in, right? And also help them break that stigma. Okay? And what we do is we meet the kids where they're at. Right, we go into the school campus and we're able to provide services for them. And as far as the parents go, if the parents are needing services, we can either have them meet where our office is at, or if they can't, we can do telehealth with them. So that's also a very big help too. Also, another barrier is the participants having anxiety about disclosing emotions to others. So some of the kids that we get, they're very closed off, right? They think that's a weak thing to do, right? Oh, I don't want to say what I feel, that's dumb, right? But then we start, you know, sharing in our meetings, right? Because we do 12-step meetings, which you guys will learn about in a little bit. But we all share, right? So then that gets them to feel comfortable in saying what they feel.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank y'all for y'all's patience. So now moving on to prevention methods. So we have several prevention methods. The first one is enhancing family economic support. And at Rise Recovery, we do that through another group that we have called Family Group. And so this group is offered to those who are 18 and over, whose family member or loved ones are also struggling with recovering from drugs or alcohol abuse. And then the second one is changing social norms to support parents and positive parenting. So like Jessica was saying, sometimes we don't always service certain districts. So for the districts that we don't service, we can provide peer counseling, support group meetings, education and employment support, and community service projects at our main campus. And number 3, early provision of high quality care and instruction. So we have another group called New Gens, and this program serves youth ages 9 through 17. And this is for, you know, those younger children who have maybe a parent, guardian, or sibling who's struggling with alcohol and substance use as well. And then we improve parental abilities to support healthy child development. And then our last one is we help intervene to reduce harms and eliminate risk in the future. And this is true through the ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences. And so for lasting change, long-term intervention approaches such as society-wide distribution or treatment resources, program designs for specific treatment centers, and personalized care for youth are extremely effective and essential.
Okay, so at Rise Recovery, we create a community with our participants that is richly diverse in cultural backgrounds, experiences, values, and viewpoints. We do this by clarifying the misconceptions that society has about addiction. Rise Recovery values the differences in our roads to recovery, and we have found ways to level the playing field by letting each participant know that they belong here by providing them with a judgment-free zone. And this also includes, like, if we have a student who feels like they connect more, say, with Danny than they do me, maybe because of their cultural background, then I could connect them to Danny, even though he works in a completely different school district, and he could go and see my child, and they just have that extra added support. So that's the really cool thing about us, too. We're very open to going wherever we're needed.
All right, statistics. Adolescents enroll in APG report greater achievement and improved communication and trust with their parents compared to the control group. Parents in APG enrolled adolescents also report improved relationship with their children, other family members. APG group taught parents effective boundaries and how to support their adolescents in recovery. The study found a 2-year solid sobriety rate of 89 through 91% for youth who completed treatment in a APG group, surprising those of non-APG attending youth. Another study found that APG participants described their APG as a place where they found a positive peer group, where they were accepted and learned new ways of coping with problems without using drugs and alcohol. And I guess what all this means is sometimes, because they were talking about the stigma and all this, people don't understand. And what we all bring to the table is some type of history, both in our past drug abuse and now in recovery, because a lot of students, they know about using drugs, but they don't really know anything about recovery. And so we kind of bring both. I had one, just an example. I had one kid one time, years ago, he said, I can't relate to nobody because nobody understands me. And sometimes you got to use a weird sense of humor. So I got a little bag of, what is that, sugar? Huh? No. Yeah, the sweet and low. Okay. So I said, look, this is the difference between a non-drug addict and a person who, somebody who abuses drugs. He looked at me and said, yeah, somebody who doesn't, they get those sweet and lows and they do this and they open it and they pour it in their drink. Go, oh, okay. A drug addict gets that thing and they do this. Goes, I can relate to that. So sometimes you got to use a sense of humor, Yeah. But, I can tell you lots of stories like that, but I won't. With Jessica.
That's why I love you. All right. So as yes, what we do is we provide culturally competent care. We do this by understanding and respecting cultural diversity. So we recognize that the teens in an alternative peer group may come from cultural diverse backgrounds with unique beliefs, values, and practices. We also build trust and establish rapport with them. So building trust is essential in any therapeutic relationship. We create a safe, non-judgmental environment where teens feel comfortable expressing themselves without fear of discrimination or prejudice. So this kind of gets me thinking about one of the kiddos that I have. She's like a smaller version of me, I guess. And I think they know who I'm talking about. But but she does like these really weird gestures that I used to do as a kid. So like when I talk to her, I'm like, hey, and she does the same thing. We change her voice and stuff. And usually people look at her as like, she's weird, right? But it's just like her way of just expressing herself, right? But I meet her where she's at. And even my staff are like, what is Jessica doing? Right? But it's just that, she feels comfortable. And so we've established that rapport. And so Ashley was sharing a little bit earlier that we can stay with the kids, or they stay with us as long as they want to. And I've been with them since they were 12. They're now going to be 15, right? So that's a really cool thing, is that we can stay with them as long as they need us. We also tailor to their individual needs. We recognize that cultural competence involves in tailoring care to meet the individual needs of the teen. So being flexible in our approach and taking consideration of their cultural background when developing care plans. We also communicate effectively with them. We're being very mindful of their language barriers. And we use interpreters such as Ashanti and Danny, or bilingual staff as needed. And we're open to learning key phrases or words that the teen's native language is, right? And we show respect and build rapport. So the way that I would communicate with an adult would be totally different on how I communicate with my kiddo, right? I'll use a little bit of street slang or whatever, but they get it, right? Because if I was to talk to them a different way, they'd be like, what are you talking about? Right? So we meet them where they're at. It's also important for you to educate yourself, right? Continuing education about cultures, traditions, social norms of the teens in your care. We also incorporate cultural practices. We respect and incorporate cultural practices into the care plan as appropriate with the teen's consent. So for example, if the teen belongs to a certain faith, accommodate their religious practices into their care plan. We also address any bias and discrimination. So this is very, very important, right? So we are vigilant in identifying and addressing any bias, discrimination, microaggressions that may occur in the care setting. We also collaborate with multidisciplinary teams. So, for example, some of the kids that we have, they may be on probation, right? Or we have teen parents also. So then if they have a CPS case or anything like that, we can work with them. And then it's also important to reflect your own biases and assumptions about different cultures. Actively work on addressing and managing them. And it's also important to seek feedback, right? Nobody's perfect, right? So it's very important to just keep learning, right? And you can learn this from either, your participants, the parents, whoever it may be. And also remember that cultural competence is a continuous process that requires ongoing learning, self-reflection, and adaptation. By providing culturally competent care, you can promote positive outcomes for teens in an alternative peer group and support their well-being.
Okay, so we engage a lot in the community because Rise Recovery is dedicated to serving our community by offering various outreach services. We actively contribute to the community by providing educational and preventative programs. We collaborate with schools by engaging the parents, faculty, and students. And additionally, we participate in community events such as food drives. We do that about, I think it's once a month during the school year. And it's really cool because I've seen a lot of the kids from the Harlandale Alternative Center, they could come to help us at the food drive. That also shaves some days off of their time at Harlandale Alternative Center. So we're also doing a back to school bash this Saturday at Harlandale. Next Saturday, they'll be doing one at Edgewood, providing free haircuts, school supplies, and resources such as ourselves and other agencies that work within the San Antonio Mobile Mental Wellness Collaborative. And police resources, presentations such as this, Red Ribbon Week. We do a lot of outreach and fun activities. So speaking of fun, Christy is going to tell you what kind of fun we have in sobriety.
Fun in sobriety. Rise Recovery promotes the idea of enjoying fun and fulfilling life in sobriety. The YES team organized a monthly activity for teens that is completely free of charge, including transportation to services to and from the location. We also incorporate a 12-step meeting with each activity, and some of these activities include bowling, tie-dye parties, park picnics, aquariums, movie nights, game nights, and pumpkin painting. So we're really big on showing the teens that having fun in sobriety is possible. Even if they don't grasp exactly the whole idea of recovery right now, planting a seed is so important so that one day down the road, the things that we teach them, they'll be remembering that. It's just a really huge impact when they know that they can have fun without putting the substances in their body. One thing that we're really excited about is next month we have a beach trip planned with all of us to go and take the kids to the beach and among other things we have planned throughout the rest of the year. So that's just one major thing that we offer at Rise Recovery, and it's all free of charge and transportation as well. So.
All right, those are my babies. Okay, so I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about the youth leadership program. So this is something that me and another coworker, she had the idea of just creating a program that was to promote student advocacy surrounding substance use and mental health, right? And so I remember having this conversation with her, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really cool. And she was like, great, do the presentations. And I'm like, okay. So we created it, me and another coworker, Mary Kate. Have to give props to her too. She's awesome. So what we did is we created this program. And so there's 2 phases, okay? So phase 1 is where the students are to complete 5 sessions on effective communication styles, how to make a positive impact on others, how to be a leader, and the importance of mental wellness, right? And the reason why we have brought this up is because when I started with Rise, I started during the pandemic, and so 2020 was really slow, right? But then come next year when the kids came, oh my gosh, the numbers of referrals that we got were, it was a lot. It was a lot of referrals that we received. So that year was when we started the youth leadership program. And we just went during lunchtime, and we told the students, hey, are you interested? And so they all came, and we had about 69 students sign up. And that's just from them on their own wanting to know about this program and how to be of service and help. So the next following year, we had 93, 94 students sign up, right? So unfortunately, we couldn't get all of those kids. It would have been a really big group, but we just randomly picked them. So this is our first group here. But the whole point of the program is after they complete that phase 1, phase 2, they put their skills to the test. So they could either do a presentation, create a panel, whatever it is, right? Regarding on the topic that they feel is important to address. So once completed, they present to the audience of their choice. So whether that be staff, parents, or their peers. So as you see right here, they are presenting to actually the principal, some of the teachers during their lunch period. So it was really fun. Okay. And so for the youth leadership program, we believe that it's important to empower the youth, right? And to continue to encourage them for that, right? When we do this, they can start believing that they're capable of doing so much more than what they believe, right? So when the young individuals we work with have that exposure, they can, take that confidence on and just soar, right? And so with the youth leadership program, we assist our students by utilizing their voice to be advocates for substance use and mental health. And we believe that an empowered young person recognizes their capabilities, self-determination, and worth, and they can feel comfortable trying new things. So there's been a lot of kids that I've worked with in this program where they're quiet. They don't want to say anything, and after a couple of sessions, you can't get them to be quiet, right? But that's cool because then we met our goal, right? That's what we need. And so with that being said, these are some quotes that they had created. So the peer leaders, this is what we call the students once they complete the program. So they're no longer, learning about the program, they are now peer leaders. So a quote, little change can make a big difference. That was from one of our peer leaders. Making changes can show a life lesson. That was from one of our participants here. Let your change shine with others, right? Or change doesn't have to happen immediately. It takes time, right? And this is all from the kiddos that we have. So this is our second group that you see here. Really great kids. I love them. They were doing a little novella session right here. You could see right there. So they were doing communication styles. And then also a little activity up there teaching them how to be a leader. So that was pretty cool. All right. So now for the fun stuff. Okay. You guys ready for trivia? All right. So this is what we do with our kiddos. We just wanted to give you a little taste of what we do. Right? All right, there we go. All right, so how to play, right? You're going to raise your hand as soon as you hear the timer, and we will randomly pick you to answer, okay? You have 30 seconds to answer each question. If you get it correct, you get a prize, okay? If you get it wrong, then you have to get somebody else, okay? All right. Ashley Darvana White. All right. Question 1. The Palmer Drug Abuse Program, aka Rise Recovery, started in San Antonio, Texas in what year? Blank question two. A blank is a person with lived experience of recovery from mental health or addiction. Okay. I got somebody. Yes.
We're self.
All right, question number three, true or false? Peer support specialists are in the role of helping and supporting participants with a focus on diagnosis, identification of strengths, and treatment. I saw her. I saw her in the pee. In the pee. All right, question four, true or false? One reason that teens do not seek treatment for their substance use is because they're afraid of the stigma associated with it. I saw her. I saw her. The one with the awesome purple lens. True.
True.
Another confident one, yes. It is true. Right, question number five. So, what is one prevention method used by the YES program? A, enhancing family economic support. B, drug court. C, treatment plan. Or D, lay provision of quality care and instruction.
How much I see?
And
Yes.
yes, good job. Okay, true or false? Question six. It is important to recognize that teens in an alternative peer group may come from cultural diverse backgrounds with unique beliefs, values, and practices. Question seven, this is fill in the blank. Blank is a continuous process that requires ongoing learning, self-reflection, and adaptation. There you go. Bam. Cultural competence. All right. Final question. All right. So, cover your shirts, cover your shirts. So as we previously learned in Rise Recovery School-Based Program, also known as the YES program, it assists with the community within the school district in San Antonio. What does YES stand for? Ah! I saw her. Woo! Yes, sir. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This is my contact info. It's also my coworkers as well. And then I have some business cards up there. If there's any questions that you have, you can ask me now or after the presentation. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.
Hello. Quick reminders. This QR code is. All right. Yes. Okay. QR code is on a piece of paper. Hopefully it's made it around to everybody. Please scan that with your phone. If you're online, the QR link or the link to the surveys in the chat. Be sure to keep track of all the workshops that you're attending on your workshop tracking form. And we're going on break now. Our next breakout session starts at 4:00. Thanks, y'all.